See? That was super easy.
See? Now you got hands.
All right, let's go with Sandy first. 301. Let me see. Let me get there. 304. 302. Okay, I think we can do that one. The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell. The guilty pair, but done with care, God gave his Son to win. His erring child he reconciled and pardoned from his sin. The love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure, the saints and angels' song. When hoary time shall pass away, and earthly thrones and kingdoms fall, when men who hear refuse to pray, on rocks and hills and mountain call, God's love so sure shall still endure, all measureless and strong, redeeming grace to Adam's race, the saints and angels' song. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure, the saints and angels' song. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchments made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure, the saints and angels' song. Sister Rachel, we'll give your hip a break. 150. 50, not 15. Okay. 150. Once I wandered alone in blackness of night. Once I struggled along far from God and right. Then I saw I was lost, and in my despair I fell upon my knees in prayer. Way down on my knees, way down on my knees, praying to my Lord every day, praying to my Lord Jesus, hear me please, take all my burden away. Satan tried to say the Bible was a lie, that Jesus did not care and I would die. Stay down on my knees, way down on my knees, he took my burden away. I had fallen so low in sin and in shame that it seemed almost hopeless to trust his name. But I lifted my voice and cried in despair, and Jesus heard my humble prayer. praying to my Lord Jesus, hear me please take all my burden away. Satan tried to say the Bible was a lie, that Jesus did not care and I would die. Stay down on my knees, way down on my knees. He took my burden away. All right, someone have another one? One more? Anybody? Sandy again. That's okay. You can do a repeat today. $151. I do not know that. Yeah. Yeah. No. I guess. Yeah, I'll learn it now if I don't know it. All right, 151. Not my father or my mother, oh, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my sister nor my brother, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not the prophet nor the preacher, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not the deacon, not the preacher, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not the people who are shouting, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not the members I am doubting, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not the other men in danger, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my neighbor nor the stranger, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Well, I didn't sing that when I was a kid or an adult. Yeah.
All right. Well, if we learn something, we all stand in the need of prayer. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Announcements. Real quick, we just have a few things. Let's remember Ladies Bible Study this Wednesday at 10. So ladies, come be part of that. And then we will have our church Bible study at 7 on Wednesday. And we'll take a look at some things then. And then lastly, the Progressive Dinner Saturday, March 7th will be we've postponed the one that we were planning on doing on Valentine's Day to March 7th, and all are welcome. And so we'll plan on meeting here around 12:30 and head towards our first house from there. So also, just a couple announcements in between there. We do have the time change coming up real soon. And then we also did get a letter from the Hermiston Church, who'll be hosting the April meeting. And so that is up on the bulletin board if you'd like to attend. So any other announcements? right. There aren't any others. Let's open up with the word of prayer. Brother Ron, would you lead us in a word of prayer? Genesis, so if you open your Bibles to Genesis chapter 1. I'm on? Okay. Genesis chapter 1. We are continuing our study on, I know I put creation, but we're not focusing on just creation. We're going through the book of Genesis. And so we'll look at creation and go through all of that. But what I like about Genesis is it gives us a really big overview of the world, gives us an idea of creation. You know, it's always good to look at creation and just kind of look at different things, see where we came from and where God has led us. And I like I like the stories of Abraham and Moses and the children of Israel and what led us to bring us to the book of Acts as we look at the church there. So we have been looking at Genesis chapter 1, and we have been taking each day. Now, this afternoon I was thinking about it. I may make up for what time I took this afternoon, because I don't have as much as I did. So you may get out of here a little bit sooner than normal. So we'll see how this goes. So Genesis chapter 1. Let's first talk about kind of where we're at. We've started and we looked at Genesis 1:1, where it says, "In the beginning was God," in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, as we look at that, I believe verses 2 through the end of the chapter is God creating that heavens and earth. And he's giving us it's kind of like an introduction. He's saying, here's what happened, big overhead, and then he breaks it down as to what that looks like. Genesis does that a lot, okay? You're going to find at the end of Genesis chapter 1, he's going to talk about he created man and woman. But then chapter 2, he's going to talk about what that looked like, okay? So it's not necessarily sequential, but you need to, there's times where a statement is made and then he describes a little bit what's going on. And we have to always, I remind everybody, and I have to remind myself, the chapters and the verses did not come till later. So the breakdowns that we see were not necessarily there when Moses wrote it. He didn't say, all right, Genesis 1 and 2, in the beginning was God. No, he didn't do that. He just started writing and just continued to write, okay? So verse 2, I believe, is the beginning, and I believe this is the foundation of the creation. What is the foundation of the creation? I believe it's two things. One is the water, and the other is darkness, okay? Darkness was already there, and water, and so those two things, I think those are the foundation points for what we see happening next, okay? Because when you go into day 1, we have him, day 1 is him bringing light, and as he brings the light, which at that point, I believe that light was Jesus Christ, okay? And why do I say that? Because he has to divide the light from the dark, okay, from the darkness. Because if you put Jesus in a dark room, is there going to be any darkness in that room? No. Okay? So he needed to divide it. And so he divided that light. So there's the light of Jesus Christ, and there's the darkness, and there's been a divide. And he calls those light, he calls the light day, and the darkness night. Okay? So we have that first of all on day 1. Day 2 is verses 6 through 8, and we have him separating the waters. Okay? So he would separate the waters from the waters and put an expanse in between them. What I believe he is doing, as you look at this illustration, I like this illustration because when you get close up to it, you have water on the bottom, you have sky, and then you have water above it. And so that is essentially what it looked like at the beginning, is there was the waters on the earth, or on the globe, and then there's the waters that were surrounding the sky, and then there's the heavens and the sky that we would call the sky that is in between that. Okay? That all happened day 2. Any questions? Okay. Day 3, verses 9 through 13. At that point, day 3, he would create land. He would create the earth itself, and with the earth, he would separate the land from the waters. Now, I've shared this with you. I believe that the Bible was, I believe when you look at the Bible closely, land was all one landmass, okay? I believe there wasn't separated continents. I think that happens later on in Genesis. But I believe all of the lands were on one landmass with all of the ocean around it from there. He would separate those lands. And then, so he would separate the land, and then he would create plants on the dry ground, grass, herbs, and fruit trees. And so those would be created on the ground, on the earth, that would be fed by the water. Now, one of the things I think we'll see this later on is God describes how those plants were watered. They were not watered by rain. It talks about how that water would seep through the ground and the dew would come up and it would water the plants. So we didn't have to worry about rain. They didn't have to worry about all of that stuff at the beginning of the earth. So, okay? All right, day 4. Genesis 14 through 19. We talked about this last week. So day 4, I believe this is when, there's a lot of things I believe that happen on this day. Day 4, he creates the sun, he creates the moon, and then I also believe he sets the earth in orbit around the sun, and then he sets the moon in orbit around the earth, okay? The sun, or the earth, does not orbit around the moon, okay? The moon orbits around the earth. The sun does not orbit around the earth orbits around the sun, okay? And I think that's important to understand, that through that, we have seasons, we have days, we have years. The other thing is we have, with the moon's rotation around the earth, it causes us to have gravity. It causes us to have the tides that come in and out. We have the moisture. One of the things that the dew from the waters is measured because of the tide, or because of the gravity of the moon, as it pulls it through the ground. And so I think that was important for that. Because if there's not that rotation, those plants that God had just created won't get the water that they need. And so he has created the situation and the atmosphere to where those waters will come through the ground and feed the plants and the vegetation and everything that he has put in place. So we have the moon that does that for the plants. Then you have the sun that will feed the plants through. Say the word again. Thank you. I struggle with that word. And so we have that happening with the sun feeding the plants through water and the moon feeding it through with the water, the sun providing the rays for the photo, whatever, and so that way they can grow. Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions so far as this goes? This is the easy stuff, right? Okay. All right. So let's talk about day 5. Day 5 is really day 5. He only has like 3 verses. He has not very many verses. That is wrong. It actually should be verses 20 through 23. I didn't fix that. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 20 through 23 is talking about day 5. We will find that this is the beginning in which he starts creating creatures, living creatures, okay? So let's start with verse 20. It says, "And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament." Okay? Now, so one of the first things we need to look at is, what does he mean by bring forth abundant, the moving creatures that have life? Okay? That's key when you look at this verse. He talks about the waters and he says that they need to have life from the waters. Okay? Now, there's only one group of animals, that's the best way I can put it, that has life from water, right? Fish. Okay? Can you throw a lion in the water and it have life? Okay? Now, many people will say, well, there was a cell in the water that turned into something, that grew into something else, that started having fins and gills and all that stuff, and we have fish. That's not what happened. Jesus spoke, or God spoke, and fish were created. Okay? And instantly they had life in the water. Okay? So when you read this, you got to make sure and understand what he's talking about. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, because when you look at the second verse, it talks about a different type of animal that can go in the water too. But this one is talking about having life from water. Okay? Can you take a fish out of water and expect it to live? No. Okay? It needs the water because of the gills and the way that it processes the water and it gets its oxygen. Don't expect me to explain it to you. There's some forms of science I like, there's some that I don't, okay? But that is an important thing. This is specifically talking about fish that need the water to be able to breathe and live in the water, okay? Second thing he talks about in this verse is fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament, okay? This would be all birds. So he would create all birds that would fly above the earth. Now, there are some people that ask me, well, what about the ostriches? I don't know. It's not for me to know, okay? Did he create them here? Did he create them later on? I don't know, okay? All I know is he created them, and we have them, okay? Now, ostriches are a form of bird. I could go with anyone telling me that this is when he created them. My thing is, it's talking about fowl that may fly above the earth, and so that's kind of where I kind of draw the line. But God is God, and he can do whatever he wants, okay? All right, so we have him creating the birds and different things, and all those that will fly. Now, a key thing that I want to bring out, 2 things that I want to bring out. The fish did not evolve from a single cell. They were created and they were to be. Birds did not start off walking on the ground and evolve into flying in the air. Okay? When God spoke birds into existence, when they became existent, when they were created, they were flying in the air. Okay? They didn't have to be taught, they already knew how. Okay? And so I think that's important to understand. Now, I do believe in evolution in the standpoint that we can evolve to do things different or better. But you cannot take a piece of sludge and make it go into become a man. Okay? That type of evolution does not happen. Never has, never will. Okay? So, okay, I think I know we all agree with that, but I want to make sure everyone online knows that. All right. So let's go to verse 21. So he creates the fish and the birds, I believe, in verse 20. Now, 21, he creates some other things. So verse 21, it says, "And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good." Okay? Now, what is different? Now, we're going to talk about the word whales, but I want to use that word because I think it's important, or it helps with my point about verse 20. Okay? How do whales breathe? They have a blowhole. Okay? They actually need oxygen. Okay? They actually will come up to the when you. I didn't know this until I did some research this week, but they can actually breathe in air within a split second to fill their lungs. They have to because of the way that they move in the waters. Okay? So through that blowhole, they'll breathe out, and then they will breathe in, and then that blowhole, it's got a little flap, so when they go in the water won't get into that blowhole, okay, and cause them to drown, okay? So when you look at them, they can breathe without even knowing it within a split second, which I thought was fascinating. I've seen huge, I know that took more than a split second for me, but just to think about a whale that size that could breathe in oxygen, and they just do it naturally. Again, what we're seeing is the power of God, right? Only He could do something like that. So when you look at look at fish like whales, dolphins, things of that nature that have a blowhole, God has created them to where they can breathe in air when they come out of the water within a split second to get enough oxygen to be able to continue to live and keep doing what they're doing. Okay? Now, that word whale is an interesting word because it refers to the word itself. I'm not going to tell you what the word is because I'll butcher it. But the word for whale, it means a marine or land monster sea serpent. Okay? It is different than what was in verse 20. It's a different word. Okay? Now, when you do your research and you start studying this out, what it refers to is like whales, crocodiles, because they can go in the water, but they can't breathe in the water, okay? Or frogs. I think frogs can't breathe in the water, right? I don't know. They can't. Can they? That's true. Right. Air breathing. That's what I thought. Okay. But the other ones that go in the water that can't breathe water is snakes. Okay? I kind of wish snakes would I wish he would have put them in the water and no blowhole. No. Right, Sister Rena? Yeah, exactly. Just let them Just let them fight for themselves. Anyways, as you can tell, I'm not a big snake person. But anyways, so you have all these type of animals that God created that can be on land and water. And I think that is what he's referring to in verse 21, okay? Now, when you look up this word, it will also refer to what we would consider the Leviathan, okay? Which I think could have been a crocodile or could have been some type of giant lizard of some sort, or it also talks about a dragon, which I think could have been a dinosaur, whatever that may be. Anyways, they needed oxygen to breathe, not water to breathe, okay? And I think that's the key when you look at this. When you look at the words, it says, every living creature that moveth, okay? And so that's the key to this verse. When you look at the other one, it talks about liveth with the water or something in relationship to the water. And so that's the key. The first verse, I think, is talking about animals with gills that would need the water. This verse talks about animals that can go in the water but still need oxygen to breathe. Okay? Any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So as he does this, we find in the rest of the verse, he says, the water brought forth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. Now, you're going to get tired of me saying this, but this word kind is very important, and we need to understand the importance of this verse. That word kind does not mean, well, the word it means is species, okay? So a whale is going to create thank you. A dog is going to create thank you. Okay. That's what it's talking about. It's not, we get that word so messed up, or people mess up those words. But that is important to understand, especially when it comes to evolution, that whatever, and he not only did he do it with the animals, he did it with the plants, did he not? He says even the plants are going to create plants after their kind. Okay, a fish is going to create another fish. Okay, it's not going to create some four-legged dogfish. Okay, it's not going to happen. Okay, clownfish. I was thinking about this. I don't know why I thought about this, but I thought about Annie when I just thought of, a clownfish is going to create a clownfish. That's what it's going to create. It's not going to create anything else. A shark's going to create a shark. And everything will create after its kind. And that's extremely important as we're looking at this, especially when we start getting into the animals. But a fish is not going to learn how to walk and start walking on the land. It has the ability to breathe in water. It's not going to grow out of that. It will continue to live in the water and stay there. Okay? Any questions or anything anyone wants to add? Okay, so not only did he talk about that with the fish and with those animals, but he also said that the birds will come after their kind. Now, this is one of the, this is where I do believe that things evolve, but not from the standpoint that they can start from something that they aren't to become something that totally different. There are, and I think this is where a lot of people have misunderstood, but just because some birds have different coloring does not mean they're the same, they're a different bird. Okay? Same with fish. There's what? Brown trout, rainbow trout. Is there any other trout? Bull trout, okay? There's 3 types of different trout, but guess what? They're still trout. There's just some that have different coloring, okay? They still are the same. Now they may look a little bit big, some are a little bit bigger, and some are different. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it goes with the animal, it goes with the fish, it goes with the birds. You have some birds that can fly really high. Why? Because that's the way God created them. They didn't adapt to that, or they weren't evolving. They didn't evolve into that. God created eagles to fly high, so that way they could see where they're going to get their food, and get all of those things. They soar, okay? So God created them that way. God created sharks to eat other fish. Now, one of the interesting things is I found this interesting. Killer whales, one of the things they'll do is they can actually get up on ice to go after their prey. Now, they can't live there. They have to get back into the water. But if you watch videos, they will sometimes rock if they see, because most of the time they eat penguins or seals, what they will do is they'll cause whatever piece of ice they may be sitting on, they'll cause it to rock. And as it rocks, they'll try to get up onto it and try to eat their prey. I found that interesting. But they're not going to grow legs and eventually be able to get up on the ice and walk on the ice to get their prey. That's just the way that they're going to be. God developed them to be that way. Okay? All right. Does anyone have anything to add? All right. We're going to conclude. So the sea animals. Verse 22 says, "And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day." Just as we find with every other animal, this is the first day he's made animals. Every other part of creation, God looks at it and he is pleased with it. As he is pleased with it, he looks at this one and he tells the animals, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters, fill the seas, fill the skies with these animals, with the birds." Now, animals are doing what they are commanded to do. Right? They're doing what they're supposed to do, to multiply. That's what their instinct is. And so, as God created them to be fruitful and multiply, they just do what God has created them. Now, if only mankind would do that. We have a choice. Birds don't have a choice. Animals don't have a choice. They're going to do what God has created them to do. And so that is the difference, and we'll talk a little bit more about that this next week. Next week. And talk a little bit more about the other animals that he creates. But he looks at all of it, and he says it is all good. Good for him, but most of all, it was good for us. And good for our benefit. All of it is good for our benefit. So, go ahead. It is the first Sunday. I couldn't remember if it was or not. So, this will be in 2 Sundays, okay? But, I step back as I go through all of these, and one of the things I try to do for myself is think about what is good about the fish? What is good about what is good about snakes? I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do get that they eat rats, and I know my wife would say they're going to eat the mice and all that stuff. I get all of that. But really, when you think about it, I enjoy when I am out hunting and things like that, it's enjoyable to hear those animals, hear the birds sing, hear the birds chirp. I don't know if you've ever experienced it or have ever watched one, but when you see an eagle in flight and when you see an eagle come to get its fish, that is amazing. I had an opportunity to watch that, and I had no words. It was I was in awe. Just to think about how they can come down, grab it, and just take right off and fly up into the sky. It's God. And you think about the whales, you think about all of those things. They are here for our benefit. They're here for, our, just to look at it, to see God's in control, just to see that God put them here, and we can see his majesty, his greatness. And so really, if you may not like fish, you may not like eating birds, but they're still here for our benefit, for our enjoyment. Sometimes just listening to the birds sing can help you kind of relax and put some things in perspective. And so there is a lot of benefits from those animals being on this planet, okay? Not just for food, okay? So, okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely. And yep. Yep. And there's some saltwater crocodiles and saltwater or freshwater. So yeah, it's amazing. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. So, okay? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Yep. That's how God created them. So, and we just see his majesty. So, yes. Okay? Anything else? Any other thoughts? All right. Nothing else?